Here's another crazy concept for you. About 5 years ago, I decided that it's more important to focus on my internal processes and my internal world instead of the external world. I figured that it's more important to understand myself in relation to this world instead of just trying to do whatever in this world. I didn't really know what that meant, but I just knew that I didn't really understand this world in the way that I was supposed to, and so I just started listening. I figured it's probably better to just listen to this world instead of trying to say whatever comes up in my head. And so I wasn't really necessarily listening to people per se, but I was listening to the world. I was just observing a lot more things, and I went to the forest more often. I planted my feet in the ground, like bare feet on the earth, and I was meditating a lot. Now, for the external world, I looked kind of crazy. I looked like a crazy person. But from the inside, I started to understand more. I started to understand my role a bit more in the world, and I started to understand how things actually work. Not how our society works, but how the world works, how the energies revolve in this world. And it's hard to explain it because it's energies and it's not some set in stone concept or rules, basically. It's really something intuitive that you can only learn by shutting up and just listening to whatever is around you, whatever that means. I didn't know 5 years ago what I was doing. I was just sitting around, and then I figured, I'll maybe learn something. And what I learned was really amazing. I was learning that if I sit against a tree, or if I'm in nature, if I sit in the sun, if I have my feet on the ground, I receive what you could call light codes or DNA upgrades or messages or whatever you want to call it. I didn't really understand back then, but now looking back at it, I'm starting to understand a little bit more. And that's why I'm making these videos as well. Is that these are very concrete things looking back on it, but during the process you don't really see what you're doing or what your process is like, or what kind of progress you're making. But I saw that I was healing myself in some way. And now looking back at it 5 years later, I see how insanely perfect the entire process of this world is, and how I'm not really creating my life. I'm just listening a lot. I just had a conversation about this in real life as well. It's that I'm kind of more playing an instrument in an orchestra. And as long as I listen well to the director of the orchestra, it's going to sound perfect. But if I try to intervene with the director, it starts to get a bit messy, and I start to have problems with my instrument, and I start to have problems with my outside world. But if I play my instrument the way the director wants me to, then it's just a beautiful piece of music. Even though if I don't really understand why I'm playing this part, or why I'm playing exactly what I'm playing right now, I still do it, because over the last 5 years I learned that if I just keep on doing what I know I'm supposed to do, and I know what I'm supposed to do because I learned how to listen, then everything is going to fall into place in this world. And the funny thing is that the less you listen and the less you try to force stuff, or the more you try to force stuff and the less you listen, the more everything is going to be harder, because you can't be the orchestra. You can only play in the orchestra. You can't force your way through this entire world. You can try, but it's going to be very hard. Whereas if you play a part of the orchestra, you learn what your role is, you learn what you're the best at, and you learn how to provide value to other people. You learn how to provide value for the system. And in that way, you're always going to win regardless of what the situation is. And I just found it very interesting, because a lot of times people ask me, like, why am I doing certain things, or how did I get to certain decisions, or how did it get so, how is it that I'm so certain of what I'm doing? And it's not necessarily even that I'm always certain about what I'm doing. It's just that I believe that whatever I'm doing is supposed to be happening, or whatever is happening in the world is supposed to happen. And the 5 years of experience in this really gave me some kind of bird's eye perspective in the way that I see the processes of the last 5 years within myself and within this world. And it just starts to look more and more like an insanely complex and beautiful machine. Basically, everything is connected in such a way that we can't even comprehend, and yet it is like this. And reality is becoming more and more strange because everything is coming together more and more. And I just don't understand it. I just know that if I listen, that I am on the positive side of things, if that makes sense. And I'm not just listening to, like I said, I'm not listening necessarily to people. I'm listening to myself. I'm listening to the voice that's in me. I listen to the voice of the forest. I listen to the voice of the sun, of the wind. This is why the elders, or like tribes that we sometimes glorify, that's why they have ancient songs about the elements of this world, because the elements make our entire world. It's just the earth, it's just the wind, it's just the water, and it's all an amazing machine where everything just works together. And if we just admit that we are not the universe, and we are part of the universe, and we are part of this entire system and machine, then we can play a beautiful part in it. But if we become somewhat self-minded, and we start to force ourselves in unnatural ways of living, then it's going to be really hard. And then you're going to find that depression, and you're going to find that adversity, and you're going to find a lot of bad things. And I realized that that's also part of religion. A lot of people see and feel the same things, but they call it different things. Like I would maybe call it the forest, or the spirit, or the energies, whereas someone else would call it God, or someone else would call it, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's mostly about the energy that you're putting into it. I know a lot of Christians, for example, that have amazing lives and are doing really holistic things that I look up to, that they're doing something truly great, and I can see myself in them as well, but in a different way. And then I can also see a lot of Christians that just follow some other guy talking about things, and you can just see that there's some kind of something that they're missing, there's a disconnect. And it's the same with quote unquote spiritual people that are just following whatever their mind brings them, or whatever guru tells them. Some people seem to really understand it, and some people really seem to feel the energy, and they're also walking this path of, hey, I'm just listening, I'm just doing what seems to be right. And then there are other people that really seem to struggle with themselves, with the energies around them. They get a lot of adversity, they get a lot of problems, and you can just see that it's because they're not listening. They're mostly talking, or they're mostly putting labels on everything. And it's just a beautiful thing to just let go, play your instrument the way the composer, the way the director meant it to be. It's just a beautiful thing to play your part, and to know what your part is. It's really time to just listen. It's more important to understand yourself than to understand the concepts that other people lay on you. Because when you understand self, you understand that all the answers are already in you, And the only way you can find those answers is to go within. And nature can help you go within. Everything is within and everything is without. Everything above is also below. See you next time.